I'm just going to be level. I'm going to level with you. And Shamid and Mason are going to kill me. This is why I'm doubting the Pelicans. Your best player is completely undermining your entire process.
All right, let's move to New Orleans. Since we just brought up Jonas Valanciunas. Well, that is where he is now. So how do you see him fitting next to Zion Williamson?
I don't think they should play a whole lot together.
Oh,
but I love it. Like it's not the fit between the two that I love. I love the acquisition because now that when you take Zion off the floor, you still have the deep post option who's efficient around the rim. So that means that even with Zion off the floor, you can now put so much pressure on the interior constantly. So that component, if that's involved in your entire game plan, for 48 minutes over the course of a game, you can say we'll always have someone who'll pressure the rim, who'll pressure the paint. We will always force teams to play post defense because that takes a lot out of guys, by the way. And it's also a place where defenders will foul. They just will. Because if you're close to the basket, people will panic and they will try to slap and they'll try to hit. So if New Orleans can, by using Jonas and by using Zion, get the team into the penalty quicker, all the better. And so I love that component will always be there. But yeah, like together, it's a bit clunky because Zion's not a shooter. While Jonas can shoot the three, he doesn't do it a whole lot. It's not really his game. He's a little bit similar to Joel Embiid in that sense. Like he'll take it and he'll make it, but you're kind of wasting him if he's a floor spacer. Like you would want him close to the basket. So I like the acquisition, but I think you need to stagger those two as much as you can.
Yeah, that's an interesting. There should like not be a minute where both of them are off the floor together.
Right.
I could see that makes sense because then you would like I can see Zion fitting with Jackson Hayes well whenever Valanciunas doesn't play, and I can see Ingram and Valanciunas fitting well together. But Valanciunas could very easily feast against second unit bigs, whereas like you're not going to run offense through Jackson Hayes. Like you're still going to run offense through Zion when he's sharing the floor with Jackson Hayes. So I actually that makes sense to me. But I totally agree in terms of, style of play. Like I know that was brought up as like Valanciunas could be more of a floor spacer than Steven Adams. And it's like, yeah, because Steven Adams doesn't space the floor at all.
Right. Goes without saying.
Yeah, that's a very low bar to clear. Like cool. Okay, Nerlens Noel could be a better floor spacer than Ben Simmons. That's what we're arguing here. But yes, Valanciunas can, as you said, he can take those shots. He shouldn't be. Like you should lean into where he is most effective, and that's around the basket. I am curious. They obviously got rid, or they were willing to let Lonzo Ball go to the Chicago Bulls. They brought in Devonte Graham from the Charlotte Hornets in his place. Do you think Graham can be an upgrade over Ball for this specific team?
In some ways, yes. In others, no. He won't be a defensive upgrade, of course. But I think that his ability to just be a very natural spot-up shooter is going to be worth a lot. And that's not to say Ball isn't a good spot-up shooter, but he was very much hot and cold. I think he only had 1 or 2 months where he was really hitting his stride. Otherwise, he was somewhat average. Like Graham with a lot of space is a tremendous shooter. The mechanics, like there's zero concern about the mechanics on the jump shot as well. So that gives the Pelicans a what's the word I'm looking for? A more consistent presence there in that sense, without having Lonzo who can go 3 of 8 one night and then go 1 for 9 the other one. I mean, you'll get someone here who can consistently hit 38, 39, and presumably even a higher percentage than that, simply because of the Zion and Ingram factor. Now, you lose a lot size-wise, though. Graham is 6'1". He won't be able to slide around and guard multiple players like Lonzo did. And I know that Shimidua and Mason Ginsberg is going to raise their fingers and go, well, Lonzo wasn't an elite defender. I hear you. He wasn't. But the size alone worked to his advantage. And that's an advantage that Graham won't have. And that's just a fact. Graham as a passer is what's interesting to me. I think he's really underrated as someone who can initiate the offense, as someone who can just see the floor for what it is. And I wonder if he's going to get those options with Zion taking so much of the ball time. Like if Zion is going to play so much on ball, I wonder what's left for Graham eventually. So I hope they figured that out.
Maybe that's the theory, as you said, since Graham is a better spot up shooter than Lonzo, maybe that lets them lean into point Zion more.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Because, Lonzo is a ball handling wing more than a point guard, but is effective with the ball in his hands. Whereas, Devonte, okay, just have point Zion be a thing on certain possessions, and then Devonte could be standing around the perimeter. His overall efficiency, we've talked about this in the past, is not great. He is channeling his former teammate Terry Rozier by not cracking 40% from the field any of his first 3 seasons. But large part of that is because almost 60% of his shots are coming from deep. And he shot 37.3 on 9.3 attempts per game in 2019-2020, 37.5 on 8.7 attempts per game this past season. Whereas you brought up Lonzo, I just looked this up for the first 15 games of the season last year. So through January 30th, he was shooting 40 flat overall, 32.1 from 3 on 7.5 attempts per game. And then after that, he started to, find his groove a little bit more over the rest of the season. Actually, at the final 40 games, he shot almost 39.7 from 3 on 8.6 attempts per game. So he did figure it out after a slow start. But I am intrigued by the prospect of the acquisition of Devonte, letting them lean more into point Zion. And then also, they have these other young guards, Kyra Lewis Jr. and Nickeil Alexander-Walker, whom David Griffin, the executive vice president, is reportedly very high on. I know our friend of the pod, Jake Fisher, reported on that at some point during his insanely accurate offseason. He had a story about kind of what went into their coaching search, and then in part of that was a blurb about Stan Van Gundy and David Griffin, as Stan has said, did not quite see eye to eye last year. Stan wanted to play the veterans, play Eric Bledsoe, even though they were he wasn't good. And David Griffin was like, no, play the kids, play the damn kids. So it seems like we might be seeing more out of Kyra Lewis and Nickeil Alexander-Walker this year. What do you expect from those guys?
Nickeil should start.
Yeah, so we've got Devonte is going to be a starter, presumably. Ingram at the 3, Zion at the 4, Valanciunas at the 5. But yeah, there is a wide open. Bledsoe's gone, Lonzo's gone. So there's a wide open spot for someone to move into the starting lineup.
And that someone shouldn't be Garrett Temple. And I like Garrett Temple.
Or Josh Hart.
Right. Nope. Nickeil Alexander-Walker for me as the starting 2 guard.
I like it. Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Well, and it makes sense for a variety of reasons, in my opinion, because it's not just a spot-up shooting. He's also a guy who's got a dribble game.
Right.
You can run him off screens and he can shoot. He can be sort of a spot-up guy as well, much like Devonte Graham. But, you can also play him off the ball, on the ball. One thing is that you have point Zion. That doesn't mean that every single possession has to go through Zion. That's just unreasonable. So there will be occasions where Zion will be a little bit out of the play, and that's when you give Nickeil Alexander-Walker a chance to shine a little bit, or Brandon Ingram. And having Nickeil just being there as a guy who can do a little bit of everything offensively should open up the floor for Zion, for one thing. Should also open up the floor for Jonas Valanciunas, for Brandon Ingram. Hell, it should provide space for Devonte as well. It's just a matter of when he asserts himself Like, to what degree can we expect? Is Nickeil going to come in and average 15 right off the bat? Will he even get the opportunity to do so, given the amount of weapons that's in the starting lineup? Maybe not. But what I'm going to be focusing on with Nickeil this year is not so much his stat line, but more how he plays in the different rotations. Like, what kind of role will he have? Will he be more of a spot-up shooter when he plays with the starters? Then when he plays with the bench, will he be more hands-on? Like, I think there's an interesting dynamic there. But I absolutely expect him to play a ton. And now comes the tricky part. Kira Lewis. I really like Kira Lewis. But I wonder if he's going to be one of those guys who's going to be better on his second team. And I mentioned that because I don't think he's going to ever really get a chance to unfold his entire arsenal of skills in New Orleans. He was a guy who was very ball dominant when he was at Alabama. He was a guy who would attack the rim. He would shoot. He would find holes in the defense. It's like he would just explore. And he's a point guard in that sense. Like, he's not someone who will come in and be a natural spot-up shooter like Devonte Graham. He's not someone who can really run it off a bunch of screens and become this knockdown 45% shooter from, primarily catch and shoot situations. He needs the ball in his hands. He needs to create. He needs to do these things. And if you limit him to a bench role where he plays like 15, 18 minutes per game, sure. But I don't think Zion's going to sit for 18 minutes per game either. And when he's in, the offense seems to go through him. Brandon Ingram is going to be in. The offense is also going to go through him at times. Hell, even Jonas Valanciunas, the offense is going to go through on occasion. So where will those touches be? And I want Kira Lewis to succeed. I think he's so bloody good. I just wonder if this is the right team for him moving forward.
Yeah, that's a fair concern because they got Tomas Satoransky, so you would think that Kira Lewis Jr. would be the primary point guard off the bench, but we'll see how Satoransky fits. I bet maybe David Griffin just waves him to after the Eric Bledsoe thing last year. He's just like, no, we are not. Just play the damn kids. I will waive everyone on this team, so you have to play the kids. I don't think that's actually going to happen. But
even if they play the kids, will Kira ever get that chance to really play his game on this team?
It's a fair question. And also, they have to balance, can they lean fully into a youth movement when there is now increasing pressure for them to speed up their timetable and actually contend for a playoff spot, given the reports that came out this offseason about some of Zion's family members already unhappy and trying to angle his way out of town. The
pressure created by themselves, by their best player.
Right.
Oh God. See, I'm just going to be level. I'm going to level with you, and Shamid and Mason are going to kill me. This is why I'm doubting the Pelicans. Your best player is completely undermining your entire process. He's what, 21? How old is Zion? 21 years old?
Yeah, 21.
Yeah. Gee, dude, you're not 28.
Yeah.
Give it a time, man. And his entire family going, and all the reports. Look, it's one thing if Zion came out and was like, no, don't listen to that. That was all just, I love it here. I want to be here. And I do think he did something of the sort, didn't he? To be fair, he did try to damage control it a little bit, didn't he? I seem to recall something. I don't remember. All right. But either way, it's not something that got stuck in the national media's mindset either way.
Right.
And him sitting there gushing about the Knicks didn't help matters.
No, not at all.
No. So it's just so hard for me to buy stock into an organization where your primary tier 1 guy is hurry up right now, even though he's 21 years old.
Yeah, hurry up in year 3 of my 9 years of team control that you have over me.
Right. And I don't dislike Zion. I love Zion. I think it's fair because he is. There's one thing that he is doing, which is completely accurate. He is assessing himself as someone who is very, very productive right now, which he is. The dude averaged 27 this year, or last year. Sorry. So he's saying, essentially, look, I'm already an in-prime player just based on my statistical production. I am an elite NBA talent. That's why I need to win right now. Fair. absolutely fair. But the Pelicans, they try to rebuild through the draft, and when you do so, that means you need to have patience. You need to find the right pieces. You need to have the right youngsters. You need to work out some things, because then some guys might hit, some might. Then you need to figure out, if those guys who hit are in the same position as each other, then we need to make some trades. Like, it takes time. Rebuilding isn't about just hitting on your draft picks. It's about then afterwards, when you have all this accumulated talent, you need to figure out how to best turn that into a fit, which means certain guys need to be moved, and then the return you get back, maybe there's a draft pick attached, which is the real value. Then you have to wait a little bit. It's just a process. I'm about to swear there. It's a process, and Zion is like, no, F that. Let's go win. Which, okay, how?
Well, that's what they did with Anthony Davis, and it seemed like they had learned their lesson. And they were trying to actually rebuild the right way around Zion. And now Zion is like, no, actually, I want you to make the same mistakes that you did with Anthony Davis.
Right.
That ultimately got him to force his way out of town.
Right.
I mean, it speaks to how tricky rebuilding is. I will say that much. Because, you feel like you have a long runway. And you could apply the same to Ja. I mean, the Grizzlies and Pelicans are building very much the same way.
Yeah,
but the difference is the Grizzlies have had slightly more success. They did make it to the playoffs last year. The Pelicans have not, since drafting Zion. And Ja had to come out, leak stuff through his family members to Shams or Woj or anything, saying, I'm not happy here. I want out. Like, they each have, Zion has Brandon Ingram, Ja has Jaren Jackson Jr. Other than that, it's just like a bunch of raw, unproven young guys that we don't really know who's going to fit here. So it's interesting, the contrast between the two teams and how we feel about them, considering they're basically doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. But now we see, I mean, the acquisition of Valanciunas this summer showed, and the Devonte Graham as well, showed that the Pelicans are feeling more pressure than Memphis is. Memphis, who is churning through roster spots and still trying to add stuff to its coffers. New Orleans is now giving stuff away. They're giving up picks to, they gave up a first rounder to get Devonte. They slid down 7 spots in the draft to get Valanciunas. They're feeling the pressure. So they're a team to watch for sure heading into this season, because, I don't want to say like David Griffin will definitely get fired if they miss the playoffs this year, but he's clearly feeling like his seat is heating up.
Yeah, and I don't think that's fair, honestly. I think he's doing what he's supposed to be doing. Mm-hmm. And I don't think his moves have been overall bad. Like, okay, there's been some in there where I'm like, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But overall, I think he's done a solid job. It's just a matter of patience, right? I mean, look, again, just take, I'm going to bring him up again, Kyle Lewis Jr. That's a solid draft pick. That's someone who has a legitimately high ceiling, who he got at 13th. I believe I had him. Oh God, this is where I have to think back. I had him very high. I think he was like 4 on my big board or something along those lines. I had him pretty high because there's just so much potential there. But the construction of the roster, given that the established star is playing at a much different position and kind of bends the entire offense in a way that's untraditional, it means you might put a significant cap on the potential and ceiling of Kyle Lewis under those circumstances. So while you have a guy who could theoretically turn into an all-star, it just isn't likely that it will happen in those circumstances. Mm-hmm. So how do you do it, right? You need to pivot. You need to find something else. And that's where things get tricky, because you kind of have to sell a team on, hey, here's Kyle Lewis. Buy his upside. Don't buy his current production. Buy his upside.
Right.
Not all teams are going to evaluate him the same way, but if he was an all-star, every team would be in line going, yeah, all right, cool. We know what he is. Known commodity. Come on down.
Yeah.
So it's just, I really think that Zion's family or whoever came up with those comments, it just did this team such a disservice. It was,
yes.
I don't understand why. And it's to that point where it bothers me to such an extent that, if someone came in with a Godfather offer for Zion,
ooh,
I would.
Whoa.
Hey, I said Godfather offer. To be fair, I didn't say equal value.
Yeah.
Don't put that on me. Don't put the woo on me right now. I said Godfather offer for a reason. Like, you shouldn't trade him for what fair value. Like, screw that. It's Zion Williamson. You take a Godfather offer, and I don't even know what the hell that is. Like Luca or something like that.
Yeah.
That's a Godfather offer. But I mean, I don't even know what that is right now. Like OKC offering up all their draft picks and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I don't know. Like, it's something along those lines, right? But because what if this is just the start of him and his family going, well, we want more.
That's fair. Yeah, that's a fair point.